Section 1. The Chaco Phenomenon. Chaco Canyon, 1050 AD. The high desert air is thin and sharp. A sharp crack echoes as a stone axe bites deep into a ponderosa pine, 50 miles away in the Chusca Mountains. Now, weeks later, a man strains with 10 others. His muscles burn, his yucca fiber sandals scrape raw against the sandstone. They are dragging a 20-foot, 600-pound log across the shadeless valley floor. This is the 5th roof beam, or viga, they have moved today. Ahead of them, rising from the dust like a mountain range built by human hands, is a stone leviathan. Pueblo Bonito. This is not a cliff dwelling. It is a statement. A city being built not in a cliff but as one. This is the heart of the Chaco phenomenon, the grand prequel to the Sky Cities. Here, between 900 and 1150 AD, the ancestral Puebloan people, the ancestors of today's Hopi, Zuni, and Rio Grande Pueblo peoples, are not just surviving. They are engineering an empire of stone. Look closer at the work. This is not crude stacking. A master mason, his hands stained with gypsum mortar, directs a team placing hand-cut tabular sandstone. They are executing a technique we now call core and veneer. First, a thick, strong inner wall of rubble and clay mortar provides the bulk. Then the artisans face it, fitting stones so perfectly flat you can barely slip a yucca leaf between them. The patterns change over the decades, a signature of the master building guilds. This city is rising to 4, perhaps 5 stories in height. It will contain over 600 rooms, but they are not all homes. You walk through a completed section. The air is cool, the stone silent. You pass dozens of rooms, one after another, and see no fire pits, no metates for grinding corn, no domestic refuse. These are not apartments. They are storage vaults, ritual chambers, public spaces. This is not a village. It is a regional capital, a cathedral, a destination. The scale is staggering. To build this one great house, Pueblo Bonito, the builders will quarry and shape millions of blocks of sandstone. And the wood, the canyon floor is arid, home only to scrubby juniper and pinon. The ponderosa pines needed for the vigas and smaller latillas, 200,000 trees in total, are being hauled from mountains 50 to 70 miles away. How? With no wheeled carts, no draft animals like horses or oxen. They are doing it with organized, relentless human power. This implies a society of staggering complexity. There are planners, architects who understand solar alignment. There are resource managers, coordinating labor and food for thousands. There are priests whose cosmology dictates the very shape of the city, aligning its walls and kivas, the subterranean ceremonial chambers, to the cycles of the sun and moon. You see it in the famous Sun Dagger petroglyph, high on Fajada Butte overlooking the canyon, a spiral carving where at the summer solstice a single shaft of light pierces its exact center. These people are astronomers, and their architecture is their calendar. They are building more than just houses. They are building roads. From Chaco, great north roads radiate outwards, 30 feet wide, perfectly straight, engineered with ramps and stairs cut directly into the bedrock. They do not wind around obstacles, they conquer them. These are not trade routes. They are spiritual pathways, connecting this ceremonial center to the outlying great houses and, perhaps, to their origin stories in the north. For over 2 centuries, Chaco is the center of its world. It draws in turquoise from distant mines, macaw feathers from Mesoamerica, shells from the Pacific. It is a nexus of power, faith, and engineering. But this grand experiment on the canyon floor, so open to the sun and the sky, is built on a precarious foundation. The climate, which had been favorable, is beginning to change. The population is immense. The demands on resources, timber, water, food, are unsustainable. By 1130 AD, a 50-year drought begins. The system fractures, the center cannot hold. The engineering marvel of Chaco, built with such precision and confidence, is about to be abandoned. The people will scatter. But they will take their knowledge with them. They will take the memory of core and veneer masonry, of multi-story construction, and of communal power. And they will look for a new home, one built not for openness, but for defense. They will look to the cliffs. Section 2. The Migration to the Alcoves. Mesa Verde, 1190 AD. The wind across the high mesa top is bitter. It cuts through a man's turkey feather blanket, chilling him to the bone. He is a scout, a leader of his clan, and he is anxious. His people have lived up here, on this green table, for generations, ever since the power of Chaco in the south faded. They found success here. The mesa tops trap moisture, and for decades their corn, beans, and squash flourished. They built strong, open villages like the Far View complex, with their own great kivas, honoring the traditions of their ancestors. But the world is changing. The great drought that broke Chaco was just the beginning. Now the climate is fractured, unpredictable. One year, floods, the next, a bone-dry winter. And the great north roads from Chaco did not just carry priests and pilgrims. They brought echoes of collapse. New groups are moving, competing for dwindling farmland and scarce water. The open villages on the mesa top are now a liability. They are exposed. The scout's gaze sweeps the canyon rim. He is not looking for a place to build. He is looking for a place to survive. He steps to the edge of the sandstone precipice and looks down. 600 feet below, the canyon floor is a thin, dry ribbon. The wall opposite is a sheer, sun-baked face of Navajo sandstone. Then his eyes lock onto a feature halfway down, a great, arched alcove, a concave scar in the cliff, 80 feet high and 200 feet wide, hollowed out by millennia of wind and seeping water. To an outsider, it is an impossibility, a void. To him, it is a solution. He is not just a farmer, he is the descendant of Chaco's engineers. He sees what others do not. He sees a fortress. An attack from above is impossible, shielded by the massive stone roof. An attack from below requires a suicidal scramble up a single, narrow path that his people could defend with a handful of warriors. He sees more. The alcove is perfectly south-facing. He knows what this means. In winter, the low, swinging sun will shine deep into the overhang, striking the back wall. The sandstone will become a massive thermal battery, absorbing the heat all day and radiating it back into their homes all night. It is passive solar heating, engineered by the earth itself. In summer, the sun will ride high, passing directly over the alcove, leaving the entire village submerged in cool, life-saving shadow. And then he sees the most critical element. Dark streaks of manganese oxide stain the back of the alcove wall. This is the signature of water. Not a river, but a seep spring, where water, trapped in the sandstone layers from rainfall on the mesa top, percolates out. It is a slow, reliable drip. It is enough. They will have water inside their fortress. He has found the new home. He has found the location for what will one day be called Cliff Palace. But this is not a simple move. They must abandon their comfortable mesa top homes. They must relocate their entire society, hundreds of people, their food stores, their sacred items, into a vertical world. And they must build. The knowledge from Chaco is essential. They know how to build multi-story. They know core and veneer. They know how to shape stone with a simple maul and pecking stone. But the Chacoans built in a wide open canyon, their resources brought to them along flat, wide roads. The scout looks at the sheer 600-foot wall. They must bring thousands of sandstone blocks, quarried from the mesa top, down into the alcove. They must bring hundreds of heavy vigas, roof beams, harvested miles away, down into the canyon, across the floor, and then up into the structure. They will have no draft animals, no wheels, no pulleys. They will do it with human hands, human backs, and yucca fiber rope. The engineering challenge has shifted. It is no longer about horizontal scale. It is about vertical logistics. It is about building a city in the sky while living in it, one handhold at a time. The work must begin. Section 3. The Vertical Metropolis. Cliff Palace, Mesa, Verde, 1260 AD. A man's knuckles are white. He clings to a yucca fiber rope, his back pressed flat against the sandstone. Above him, 2 men grunt and pull, hauling a 40-pound quarried stone block up from the mesa top. Below, the canyon floor is a dizzying 100 feet down. One slip, and the rope, the stone, or the man is lost. This is not a rescue. This is the construction supply chain for a city rising inside the rock. The physics of this operation are brutal. The work begins not in the alcove, but miles away and hundreds of feet above it. On the mesa top, the air rings with the sound of stone on stone. A quarry team is at work. They aren't using metal. They are using heavy river mauls to pound and harder pecking stones to dress the sandstone. They find a natural fissure in the bedrock, hammer dry wooden wedges into it, and then pour precious water onto the wedges. They wait. Overnight, the wood swells, and with a great groan, a slab of sandstone weighing several tons splits from the cliff. This slab is then broken down, pecked, and shaped into manageable blocks, each the size of a loaf of bread. A master mason inspects the work. He is using the Chaco core and veneer technique, but with a critical difference. The Chaco builders dressed their stones to a near-perfect, standard shape. Here the stone is softer, more varied. The masons shape the blocks, but they rely on a thick, strong mortar to fill the gaps. That mortar is made right here. Women and children move up and down the sloping alcove floor, mixing the local clay-rich soil, or adobe, with water from the seep spring, and binding agents like ash or crushed shale. Now the real challenge begins: logistics. You are watching a feat of human engineering that rivals anything in the ancient world. A team has felled a 30-foot ponderosa pine 15 miles away. They carried it on their shoulders, a dozen men, for days. They have lowered it painstakingly with yucca ropes down the cliff face to the construction site. This single viga will form the ceiling of a room and the floor of the one above it. A builder, his body covered in sandstone dust, scrambles up a scaffolding made of juniper and pinon. This scaffolding is not nailed together. It is lashed with rope, or cleverly cantilevered, its support beams socketed into holes in the masonry to be filled in later. He and his team lift the massive beam. They set it into sockets built directly into the growing stone walls. Then they lay a crosshatch of smaller sticks, the latillas, across the vigas. On top of this, a mat of juniper bark, and finally a 6-inch thick layer of wet adobe mud. They pound it flat. It dries, forming a fire-resistant, load-bearing floor. This city is not planned on a grid like Chaco. It is organic. It is alive. It conforms to the body of the rock. The builders are working with the mountain. The alcove's floor is not flat. It slopes steeply. So, the builders engineer massive, curved retaining walls, creating level plazas and terraces. They build around massive boulders that have fallen from the roof, incorporating them into the walls of their homes. The rooms are custom fit. Walls curve to meet the sweeping arch of the alcove's back. Where the roof hangs low, they build low storage rooms. Where it soars, they build towers. Look at the round tower at Cliff Palace. It is not square. It is not random. It is a masterpiece of geometric precision, its stones tapering perfectly to create a strong, stable curve. It is a watchtower. It is a celestial observatory. It is a symbol of their new, fortified identity. And everywhere, the kiva, the spiritual heart of the community. On the mesa top, they were dug deep into the earth. Here, you cannot dig into solid rock. So the engineers adapt. They build the circular kiva on the surface. Then they build a high retaining wall around it and fill the entire space with rubble and earth, burying the kiva completely. When you walk onto the central plaza, you are walking on the roof of this man-made underworld. The symbolism is maintained. They have brought their sacred architecture with them, reinventing it for this new, vertical world. The work is slow, dangerous, and generational. A father starts a wall, his son will finish the room, his grandson will live in it. This is a society bound by communal effort, building not just homes, but a fortress that is also a temple. By 1275 AD, the alcove is full. Cliff Palace contains 150 rooms and 23 kivas. It is home to over 100 people. It is a bustling, thriving metropolis, hidden from the world, powered by human muscle and sheer ingenuity. Section 4. Life in the Sky. Balcony House, Mesa Verde, 1277 AD. The morning sun has not yet cleared the opposite canyon rim, but the alcove is already alive. A young woman, her shoulders strong from years of this work, checks the strap on her woven yucca basket. Inside is a small clay pot of water and a handful of parched corn. She steps to the edge of the plaza and looks down. Her commute is about to begin. She is not going up to work, she is going down. She swings her legs over the ledge and fits her bare feet into a shallow groove, a moki step, pecked into the 60-foot vertical sandstone face. Handhold, foothold, shift weight. Handhold, foothold, shift weight. This is a daily climb, one she has made since she was a child. Below her is a sheer drop to the canyon talus. She and dozens of others are descending from their fortress to their workplace, the Mesa top. These incredible cities are not self-contained. They are defensive dormitories. The lifeblood of the people, their corn, beans, and squash, grows hundreds of feet above them, on the flat tableland where they used to live. You are witnessing a society split between two worlds. By night, they are secure, vertical, and communal. By day, they are scattered, exposed, and agricultural. Up on the mesa, the real ingenuity of their survival is revealed. The climate is unforgiving. Rain is scarce and violent. To lose the topsoil is to starve. So they have engineered the mesa top itself. You see lines of small, low stone walls built across every shallow drainage. These are check dams. When a summer thunderstorm hits, these dams slow the water, forcing it to drop its precious silt, creating small, fertile terraces. They build reservoirs, line ditches, and contour the land, farming not just crops, but water. Back inside the alcove, the air is thick with the sounds of life. From the plazas comes the constant rhythmic shh-shh of women grinding corn on metates, a sound that is the heartbeat of this society. The smoke from dozens of small cooking fires stings your eyes. Look up. The entire 80-foot-high sandstone roof of the alcove is stained jet black with the soot of generations. The engineers built ventilation shafts into the walls, but the smoke always rises. This is a world of incredible intimacy. The plazas are the communal living rooms. Here, a man sits cross-legged, weaving cotton, traded from the south, into a patterned blanket. Another man is napping, striking an obsidian core to create razor-sharp arrowheads. His hands are scarred, but his work is precise. In another plaza, a master potter is coiling clay. Her work is the famous Mesa Verde black on white, a style so elegant and geometrically precise it rivals any in the world. She paints with a brush made from a single yucca fiber, her pigment made from boiled-down beeweed. And then there is the sound of children laughing and shouting. They are playing on the very edges of the 700-foot drop. They are born into this vertical world. They have no fear of heights. They are as sure-footed as the wild turkeys their fathers keep in low-walled stone pens. You feel the defensive posture everywhere. Look at the entrance to Balcony House. There is no grand gate. There is a tunnel, 18 inches high and 12 feet long. To enter, a trader or an enemy must get on his hands and knees and crawl. He emerges, blinded by the light, into the main plaza, where a single defender, standing in a protected alcove, could end him with a stone axe. Ladders that connect one level to another can be pulled up in seconds, sealing off entire sections of the city. This is a confederation of fortresses. From a high watchtower at Cliff Palace, a lookout scans the canyon. He can see a signal, a glint of sun off polished mica, or a puff of smoke, from Spruce Tree House, from Balcony House, from a dozen other alcoves. They are not alone. They are a thriving, interconnected, and highly specialized society, the masters of the vertical world. They have solved the problem of defense. They have perfected the architecture of the cliffs. They are at the absolute apex of their civilization. But their greatest threat is not a rival clan. It is not an enemy crawling through the tunnel. It is the sky itself. The sky, which for decades has given just enough rain, is about to turn against them. Section 5. The Great Abandonment. Mesa, Verde, 1285 AD. The air is not just air, it is dust. A thick yellow-brown haze that stings the eyes and coats the tongue. A Kiva priest, his turquoise necklace dull with a film of grit, stands on the plaza of Cliff Palace, looking up at the sky. He is not looking for enemies, he is looking for a cloud. Any cloud. There are none. This is the 9th year. The 10th. The 20th. The great drought that began in 1276 is not an event. It is the new reality. The sky has turned to brass. The engineering marvels of the cliff dwellers, so perfectly designed for defense and passive solar heating, are now a high-altitude trap. The genius of their society is breaking apart piece by piece under the relentless, silent pressure of a climate catastrophe. First, the seep spring failed. The dark stains at the back of the alcove, the very reason they chose this spot, are no longer damp. The slow, reliable drip has stopped. The water that percolated down through the sandstone from the mesa top has been cut off at its source. There is no more snowpack. There are no more summer monsoons. The cisterns, those masterfully built stone basins designed to catch every drop of runoff, are cracked and dry. A woman, her muscles aching, makes the climb. But she is not climbing up with food. She is climbing down, a heavy clay olla on her back, descending the 600-foot cliff face. She must walk 2 miles up the canyon floor to the last remaining pool, a muddy, algae-choked puddle shared by animals and other desperate clans. Then she must carry that 40-pound pot of water all the way back and up the vertical cliff. This is a day's work for a few gallons. It is not sustainable. Next, the food chain collapsed. Up on the mesa top, the check dams, the terraces, the reservoirs, they are all useless. The wind has scoured the topsoil from the fields, blowing it away as dust. The corn, once their lifeblood, now withers at the stalk, its ears stunted and barren. The granaries, built to store a 2-year surplus, are empty. The sound of the metate, the grinding of corn, has fallen silent. The men return from their hunts empty-handed. The deer, the bighorn sheep, the rabbits, they have all fled the high, dry mesa or perished. The turkey pens, once full, are now repositories of bone and dried feathers. The fortress has become a prison. This is a crisis of faith. The Kiva priest leads his clan into the subterranean darkness of the Kiva. They perform the rituals. They dance. They pray. The cosmology that dictated the alignment of their towers and the orientation of their city is unchanged. The sun still hits the solstice marker, but the rain does not come. The gods, it seems, have left, and with the failure of faith and food, the social fabric tears. The intimacy of the plazas becomes a source of tension. We see it in the archaeological record. Skeletons from this period begin to show signs of horrific violence, cranial fractures, smashed faces. At some sites, kivas are burned. Defensive walls are built inside the plazas, separating clan from clan. The threat is no longer from the outside. It is from within. The society that cooperated to build an impossible city is now cannibalizing itself. The decision is made. It is not a panicked flight, but a cold, hard, logical evacuation. This place is no longer a home, it is a tomb. They gather what they can carry. Precious seeds, wrapped in cloth, their finest tools of stone and bone, their sacred kiva objects. They leave everything else. They leave the massive metats, too heavy to move. They leave the beautifully painted pots, stacked in the rooms. They leave the turkey feather blankets, the yucca sandals. They leave the work of 5 generations. One family, in a small room in Balcony House, leaves a pot of beans simmering on a still warm fire. They expected to return. They never did. They pull up the ladders. They descend the hand and toe trails for the last time. They do not look back. By 1300 AD, the impossible cities of the Ancestral Puebloans are empty. Cliff Palace, Balcony House, Chaco Canyon. They are silent, pristine ghost towns left to the wind. The people who built them, the tens of thousands who engineered this vertical world, are gone. They are walking south and east, towards the Rio Grande, towards the little Colorado River, towards the Hopi Mesas, in search of the one thing their mountain fortresses could not provide: water. Section 6, the Diaspora and the Legacy. The Rio Grande Valley, 1350 AD. The sun is just as hot, but the air is different. It is thicker, heavier, and there is a sound. The constant, quiet rush of a wide, muddy river. A man, his hands still calloused with the knowledge of stone, places a shaped block onto a wall. But this wall is not in an alcove. It is on the flat, open valley floor just above the floodline. He is a survivor. He is the great-grandson of a Mesa Verde Mason. The Great Abandonment was not an apocalypse. It was a diaspora, an exodus of master engineers, astronomers, priests, and farmers. They walked away from their cliff-top fortresses, carrying something far more valuable than pottery: their culture, their cosmology, and their architectural DNA. They followed the water, splintering into dozens of groups. They migrated to the Hopi Mesas, where they built villages like Oraibi, perched on high, defensible flat tops. They moved to Zuni. They walked east to the fertile floodplain of the Rio Grande and founded the ancestors of today's pueblos: Acoma, Taos, Santo Domingo, Cochiti. And what did they build? Look at Taos Pueblo, which stands today. You see it immediately. The Chacoan blueprint, the multi-story terraced structure built not of cut stone, but of adobe, the mud of their new home. Look at Acoma, the sky city built on a sheer-walled mesa, a fortress that echoes the defensive posture of Mesa Verde. The building technology adapted. The kiva remained, the spiritual heart of the community. The central plaza, where the people of Cliff Palace once ground corn, became the core of these new villages. The engineering knowledge was not lost, it was transformed, adapting from a vertical sandstone world to a horizontal adobe one. The cliff dwellings themselves fell into a profound silence. For 600 years they slept, preserved by the impossibly dry air of the high desert. They were not lost. The descendants of their builders, the Pueblo peoples, knew exactly where they were. They were the sacred homes of the Anasazi, a Navajo word meaning ancient ones, the ancestors. Then, in the 1880s, ranchers and explorers like Richard Wetherill rode into these remote canyons. What they saw stunned them into silence. They were staring at cities in the sky, pristine and perfect, as if the inhabitants had left only yesterday. Today we are still stunned. Architects and engineers return to Chaco and Mesa Verde, and they are baffled. Not by the what, but by the how. How, with no metal tools, did they quarry and shape millions of stones? How, with no wheels, pulleys, or draft animals, did they transport 200,000 roof beams, weighing 600 pounds apiece, over 50 miles of brutal terrain? How did they build 4-story towers and perfectly circular kivas on a sloping cliff face, 700 feet in the air, using only handholds and yucca rope? The answer is not in a technology we have lost. It is in a social structure we no longer possess. The true impossible engineering of the Ancestral Puebloans was their society. It was the power of immense generational communal will. It was the ability to coordinate thousands of people for centuries toward a single, shared, sacred goal. It was a society that moved mountains, not with machines, but with faith and organized human labor. The cliff dwellings are more than a curiosity. They are a monument to human resilience. They are a masterpiece of environmental design, a lesson in solar heating and defensive architecture. And they are a chilling warning. They are proof that a civilization, no matter how brilliant, no matter how well engineered, cannot survive when the environment itself changes. The fortress, in the end, was no match for the sky.